friend.
Welcome to Heavy Metal
History.
What's up, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I got to sit down and talk with guitar player Jonatan Ramm from Graveyard. This band has really broad appeal. You know, they are on the side of metal, but also not on the side of metal. And I think a lot of metalheads listen to them. They're on a giant heavy metal label with Nuclear Blast. They have a new album coming out called Peace after a little bit of a hiatus. We talk about that. We talk about the new album. We talk about his influences. It was a fun podcast. You're going to love it. And don't forget, our episodes are sponsored by the new graphic novel coming out by Scott Lewis called Death Dreamer. Go to deathdreamer.net, sign up for the mailing list. You will know when it comes out. Scott's going to be on the podcast in July to talk about that, and who knows what else. So, as always, thank you for listening. Go check out our new website. We redesigned everything, and we're going to have a giveaway pretty soon. I found a bunch of autograph posters, so this is the first time you guys are going to hear about that, and hopefully we'll drop more details soon. And if this is your first time checking us out, thank you for listening. Hopefully you'll go check out other episodes. And here we are, episode 59 with Jonatan Ramm of Graveyard.
Yeah, sure.
Cool, man. All right, so we're gonna get right into it here. Again, thank you for doing the show. The one thing that I like to start off with, I do start off with a question here. I want to know your kind of early influences, whether they be traditional heavy metal or even non-heavy metal kind of stuff. Like, what got you into music and eventually into metal itself?
Okay. Yeah, it was. I think my interest started around 13 or so, or more. My interest for playing music, I guess, started around 13, and I was listening to a lot of different things, I guess, before that age, and I think I had some AC/DC tapes, and Dad played a lot of Chuck Berry and Neil Young, so I got that too from home. But I think my interest was growing whenever I heard punk music, and in my hometown where I'm from, it was kind of a big thing with the hardcore and punk music. So that was my first attempt of playing in a band, was with a kind of heavier hardcore band. So that was what got me into the music scene. But then, you know, I heard not too long after that, I heard Black Sabbath's first record, The Wizard, on radio, and I felt like, wow, you know, that was Tony Iommi and his, you know, way of playing, and it was a very, I don't know, eye opener, or, you know, I thought to myself, like, I really want to try to play the guitar better, you know. And then I listened to a lot of hard music for a while, or metal music, and Entombed, and other Swedish bands like At the Gates and such, and it was that was also a combined thing that you know, I realized that these bands were listening to a lot of Black Sabbath and you know, such things like Entombed, for example, and it kind of grew together, and I started to look for other, you know, bands that were active in the 60s and 70s, and it all blended together. And nowadays I try to listen to, you know, as much different music as possible, but when you work with it, it's kind of comes second, you know. So
yeah, I think that's really important. That's the one thing we kind of started with this podcast, is like how much of an impact Black Sabbath had on pretty much every musician that's come after them, you know. I think a lot of bands
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to deny it, be like, "Oh, no, we did our own thing." But it's there, man. I mean, Black Sabbath influenced an entire generation, and just kind of everything that came out of that was astounding. The way it just quickly built on
Yeah,
top of each other.
yeah. They, as you say, they've been inspiring a lot of people, I guess, and yeah. But it's yeah, and I love, I don't listen to a lot of the as heavy stuff today, but
Hmm.
um, it's a lot of different music as well, of course, for everyone in the band, I think. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, there's a lot of blues rock and blues and jazz and folky stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. So you mentioned kind of playing in punk bands when you first started out, and I think that's another thing too that I think is really important. Is I always feel like punk rock is kind of like the cousin of heavy metal, and so you can't really talk about heavy metal without punk rock because it's got
Oh
like
yeah.
kind of that same form of aggression and passion that heavy metal has behind it, and I think that gets overlooked a lot. But that's really cool that you said that was like your first band and where you kind of started out there.
Oh yeah. I think it's a good I think it's a good start, because you're allowed to play more on or uh, get your feelings through instead of trying to be really good at something at first, which is hard.
Yeah.
It was a good start. Yeah.
So what was like, I know you said you were into music at a pretty young age, but did any of that stuff growing up when you were listening to it, how did that kind of influence you to start picking up guitar and getting you to play it? Or was it maybe like a family member that got you into it as well?
Yeah, I mean, my dad actually, um, he was talking a lot about me trying to play the guitar or learn the guitar, but I was way into soccer at the moment
Hmm.
when I was younger, and kind of, yeah, that was my days were filled with soccer for a while, and then I got some issues with my legs, and yeah, I just stopped, and that's where the music came in kind of and took over. But so he was talking about it, and I wasn't. We had an acoustic guitar, which we had hanging on the wall, but I never really appreciated that until after I started playing electrical guitar, kind of, because the sound of an electric one when you're a kid sometimes can blow your mind. So yeah, that's why. Yeah, I kind of started playing immediately, or we started playing in a band and no one could play really. So that was good for us. Everybody was at the same page, and we just learned by playing together. So that was it was good.
Yeah, that's one thing I always like think about too is like technology wasn't as readily available back then, so you guys couldn't get on YouTube or something and learn like arpeggiated scales or harmonics and stuff like that. You kind of just had to like learn on your own, or maybe get like a VHS or tab books and stuff like that. Is that kind of how you picked up guitar, or did you go to lessons at all?
No, or yeah, I tried to take some lessons in school when I was high school, I guess, and but we had our practice base uh, in between school and this place where I suppose we're supposed to take my lessons, and we mostly we got stuck in the practice space and practiced our own songs, and unfortunately I didn't spend much time learning things, but I like from taking lessons. So but I would say I learned mostly on my own, like trying to play songs in front of the stereo.
Yeah,
So
that's I think if you learn something on your own like that, you become a little bit more proficient at it because you kind of know your own personal way around the instrument. And in my opinion, I think it worked out great for you. I mean, your guitar playing style is very unique all on its own.
All right. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. That's why I usually tell people that, I really don't know how to do it, so it just turns out that way. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So with those kind of early musicians, which one of them, or how many maybe, like, kind of stuck out to you that kind of influenced your playing a little bit with guitar players that you heard?
I would say I would definitely say Tony Iommi and Peter Green has always been a favorite for me, and I mean, pretty much everybody in Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac has, made an impression, and their tone and how they choose to play their notes it blows my mind every time I listen to it still. So
that is a very timeless band. I know every time, like, I hear a song or listen to it on my own, it's just like, man, this came out how long ago? And it still sounds it just sounds like great no matter what era you listen to it, and it's gonna be one of those things that goes on for forever, it seems like.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And it's a good thing. I enjoy it very much, and of course, Jimi Hendrix, and I always all those bands or artists, like, that you've seen, especially for me, I don't know, it's for some reason I was into this, the 60s and 70s for a long time, and I still is, but not as focused maybe on it. But when you saw all these movies and live clips and everything, it's it's pretty cool to see what was going on, and especially at that time, I guess, since it was still kind of a new thing back then. So I imagine it must have been pretty amazing being around and hear that kind of music for the first time. So
yeah, that's kind of how I like to listen to music like that when I'm, like, if I'm first hearing of it, it's like, okay, let's not listen to it with, like, 2018 ears where I've heard every music under the sun. Let's try and think of, like, when this first came out, when there was nothing else like it, and listen to it that way, so that way you get this kind of fresh perspective on it,
Yeah, definitely.
It's hard to do sometimes when you hear some things, but I think I try to make an effort, at least.
yeah, that's good enough, I feel like. I mean, I agree. When you hear songs that been played so many times, and it's still amazing songs, but you can't just enjoy it so much anymore.
Yeah, I know a lot of a couple of my favorite guitar players from, like, that era is, like, Brian May from Queen, and like Damon Johnson from, like, Thin Lizzy, or Scott Gorham from Thin Lizzy, like, both those guys.
All right, yeah.
Killer guitar players right there.
Yeah. It's when you think about it, how many people that that has been doing some amazing things on their instruments. There's quite a bit of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know half of them. So, but it's interesting.
So one of my favorite things about your guys' band, and it's really interesting to me, is how you guys have this seemingly broad appeal across the spectrum of metal. Like, your sound is on the less extreme side, but it's still there because it's got, like, those old school influences. But I know people who are into, like, the most brutal kind of death metal stuff still love your band. How is it you guys manage to, like, pull that off, being just so out there like that?
I don't know. I mean, I'm happy to hear that, but we always, or in the start at least, the early days, we felt like we were somewhere in between, the metal folks and the the rock and roll people.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know what to or if anyone would like it, to be honest. But we were lucky, and a little bit of each came together, and they seemed to enjoy it. And yeah, it's always nice to see a mixed crowd, or people in different ages or different gender, that everybody can enjoy it somehow. Maybe a little, maybe one song at least, or so.
Yeah, I think that it speaks a lot to your guys' band, as well as like the people listening to music, that they're a little bit more open-minded to hearing what you guys have to play. Because I know when I first heard it, like, nobody told me what you guys sounded like. They're like, hey, you just need to listen to this band called Graveyard. And I heard the name, and I was like, ooh, that sounds cool. And I was expecting like a heavier band, and it came on, and it was like this kind of throwback 70s style music, and I was like, dang, I didn't expect that. This is great. So like I was into it, and all my friends luckily were into it too, and it's nice to see like how varied all of our tastes are, but we still agree on this one thing. It's it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
So speaking of kind of like early days, your guys' first album just turned 10 years old. How does that feel?
Like we're getting a little older. I think no, it feels great, and it feels honoring to be able to still do this, and to still have this as a job, and yeah, I'm very happy and grateful that we can do it still, and that people are interested in what we do still. That's because sometimes, or especially nowadays, when it's not like it used to be back in the days. I suppose that maybe it was a little more more glamorous than it is, because you have to do so many shows and tours nowadays, which is awesome, and we all like it, but you kind of have to work hard anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty draining. I used to tour with the band a little bit, doing merch and stuff, and like, being out on the road for like a month to 2 months, it wears on you pretty quick.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's great fun, but it's also, it's a special non-stop bubble kind of, which can be both good and bad to you. But I guess you just have to take care of yourself to enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. So with if you can kind of take us through the beginnings of that first album, since it was, I know it's 10 years ago, so it's a little while back, but what can you remember about where the band was at leading up to the writing and recording of that first record?
The first record, I think, because I joined the band soon after, at the end of the recording of the first record. So
okay.
They started out in 2006, the fall in 2006, and in the springtime 2007, I think they recorded the first album, and I came in the band to do a couple of solos at a couple of songs, because they were like, Truls, that used to play guitar, the bass player nowadays and singer, he used to play guitar in Graveyard that first half year, and then he got into school then, and he wasn't very, he didn't really know if he wanted to play full time or not. So they asked me, and I'm very happy and grateful for that. And now Truls is back, as you know, and it's a good. It was a good vibe immediately, and when I got into the band, and we just what we did, because we still had day jobs during the first record when we toured on it and such. So we took time off work to go tour, and then we got home with no money, kind of. To be honest, it was a little rough, but it was something that we we really wanted to do, and we didn't have families back then, and we could just trying to get it together on ourselves. Yeah, where was I? In the first record, yeah, we toured a lot. We toured for 3 years or 4, was it? I can't remember, but we did as much touring as we could, and worked in between, and whenever we released Hissing and Blues, then we started to get money, and we could get paid for the music. So that's when we started to have it as a profession.
Yeah, that's when I first heard about you guys when that album came out, and that was like 2011, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's, man, that was like a game changer for me, because I never really realized like the broad scope of what a band could sound like, and immediately made me go back and revisit like the other records that were out before that, and subsequent records that came after that. So you guys took a little bit of a hiatus before this current record. What kind of prompted that hiatus?
What made us have a break, you mean, or break? We didn't actually know if we were going to come back at all, because we had we didn't work in the same direction, and we had a hard time finding a good group dynamic in the end before that hiatus, and different reasons led to that. Axel chose to leave the band, and we were in a or for a half a year or almost, or so we were just waiting for something to happen or to work out, and we were trying to talk through our manager, because it was hard to meet in a group, all of us. So no one were angry, or I should say no one is angry anymore, but it was just that we didn't work together really. So that led to Axel leaving, and since we were the others of the group, we really wanted to continue to play, because that's what we do, and that would be very missed if we didn't. So we got together and we started talking about finding someone that could replace Axel, even though Axel will always be missed. So but we were very fortunate and to find Oscar, and it was Truls that came up with the idea, and it was like he's been friends with Oscar for a long time, and he said, now Oscar, I forgot about him, So he called Oscar, and he came, and we practiced a couple of times, and it felt great immediately. So he's we're lucky to have him in the band now.
So did that kind of inspire like everything to kind of start moving forward with writing new music and everything, and you guys enjoyed playing together as a group again?
Yeah, sure. And we always enjoyed playing with Axel too. It was just more of a social. The vibe wasn't very good, so that's how it turned out. But Oscar is he's an amazing drummer and a great person to have around. So we're happy. And he also, as you say, he gave a bunch of energy to the band, and also gave us more energy to continue right on things that we maybe had half done or started working on. So
yeah, that's important. When you have like this group of different people, man, if somebody's not vibing, or like the inspiration is not there, it's harder to get out a song and I don't want to say product, but something that means something to you guys, an art form where it's you all have to be on the same page to do this. And That's the one thing I've learned too, is like when you're with a group of people in a van or a bus or whatever as a band, like, every now and then personalities they clash a little bit, but it's good to hear that you guys are like vibing again and you've made this record. And when or where, I guess, did the kind of writing process start for the new record?
I think it's at that moment when we realized that when Oscar showed up and he felt like he fitted right in, so then when we I think that's when we started for real to write songs for the new album, even though we had ideas before that or kind of ideas for whole songs, but we never really we met up, me, Joachim and Truls, and we played some songs that we thought might work, if we would find a replacement for Axel. So we had some stuff, but we never bothered to work on them properly before Oscar came along. So but it's been great writing these songs, and everybody has been doing what they do best, and we've been having fun on this recording, so it feels good. Everything feels right. So.
Yeah, it feels like a fun record. I've listened to it quite a few times so far. It feels like you guys have had a lot of fun playing the songs and writing the songs. It's got a nice energy to it. Okay,
I'm glad you can hear that. That was what I was hoping for whenever we recorded, because it felt really. It was very, very good and stress-free to record it. So it felt like maybe you can tell.
Yeah, I feel that way. That's what I've been telling everybody. Is like, you gotta listen to it, man. It's a fun record. It's got a good energy behind it.
All right, cool.
So when you're writing music, do you kind of come up with guitar riffs on your own, or do you write in tandem with the other guitar player, or does everybody kind of add their piece together? Like, how does it work when you're building a song?
It varies kind of, because sometimes we bring a pretty much a whole song to the practice space, and we go through it and we try it and we see what it feels like, and sometimes we just have a little part that we jam on, and sometimes we write together if someone feels like, all right, I had that part and that would maybe fit really good in with this, so we try that, and we do it in all kinds of ways, but we always meet up and play together and practice and kind of try to feel if it's fun enough to play, then it's worth working on, or continue to work on a whole song and make that out of it.
Yeah, so basically, when you guys are like heading into the studio, you have presumably everything written and ready to go, correct? Or are you still kind of working on things a little bit here and there, like perfecting them?
Yeah, we practiced a lot before the recording to have everything like we wanted it and all that. But at the same time, Truls has had that song. See the Day, I think it's called, on the record. Mm-hmm. He's had ideas for that song for very long, or
wow,
way back, I think. So that one kind of, he had that in the back of his head, and then in the studio we tried to play it together, and so we didn't practice that one really at all, but most of the other songs we did.
So one thing I really like to know about is all the kind of ins and outs of recording the record. If you can, just kind of take us through like what you guys did during the recording session, like what you played, if you recorded together or separate as far as like tracks go, and just everything you can remember, because I'm really interested in that side of music making. It's really interesting to me.
All right, yeah. This time we we just, when we first got there, we checked the studio out because we were in a studio called Park Studios in Stockholm, and we met Stefan Boman, which was the sound engineer, and also Chips Keesby. He was the producer for this Peace album, and we just started to check their equipment out, and we realized because there were so many nice old guitars and basses and amps around there, so we just we asked, and apparently it was a collector that had I mean, I don't know, endless amounts of both amps and guitars, and he was sending stuff there now and then for people to play it and record with it. So
Wow.
we were, it was impressive, and then yeah, we just started whenever we found what we thought sounded best, and I think I used my Gibson SG Special almost the whole recording because I really enjoyed the sound of the P90s on it, and then I just variated amps. I used Vox AC30, an old one, quite a lot, and then I used Fender Blues Deluxe quite a bit, the small combo amps. And we just we mixed, and we went in there and we tried to, first off, of course, we tried to get the drums down, and Oscar is he's a fast guy, so there was no problems, so we went in, we all played live at the same time, but then we whenever the drums were set, then me, Joachim and Truls went in to play the song through like 2 or 3 more times, and then we or mostly, like if we sucked, then we played 5 times maybe, but and then we had what we needed except vocals and solos and percussion and such. So that part went very fast, and then we also did the solo part in Stockholm because we had little time left, and one of these days, right after we started putting down some guitar solos, there was a shipment of I think it was 12 amps coming in, and they were all every one of them were made in between 1955 and 65.
Wow.
And they were in mint condition, and they were amazing. So I think 10 of them at least ended up on the record as some kind of guitar solo or something. It was I was blown away. It was an amazing experience, to be honest. If you're into amps and stuff, it was a very fun experience, and we it was everything, and there was these old Gibson Maestro amps that sounded amazing, and Magnatones and Epiphone amps, and everything, every kind.
Gosh, that sounds amazing. Yeah. A lot of the old stuff, man, it's it's either sitting in a museum or hard to find, and it's in a good studio like that. So that's awesome that you got to kind of play and test around on those things. That very few people probably get the chance to do that nowadays. Yeah,
and it's and you kind of it blows me away how good they sound. Like if these small combo amps, when you just crank them up, and they sound like a wall of amps. Kind of, it's amazing.
Yeah. So how long did it take for the whole recording process, like from start to finish?
It took around, I think, maybe 6 weeks or so. I'm a little insecure because I think we had 3 weeks in Stockholm, if I remember right. And then we also had, I think, around 3 weeks in Gothenburg to put vocals down and percussion also.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, so I think around that kind of, or around that amount of time.
So what are your favorite tracks off the new album? What ones are you looking forward to playing the most?
I always have a hard time deciding, and I always get that question, "What's your favorite song?" And I'm like, I don't know yet, because
Yeah.
it's always I always get my favorites after playing a few shows at least, like or maybe after a whole tour. It feels like, oh wow, yeah, I really like playing that one. So that even though you wouldn't think that way before you play them, so it's always hard, and I enjoy every song on the record. So sorry, can't give you a great answer, but I look forward to play all of them, and we already tried a few of them, like four songs live. So and it, it gets you get on your toes a little, and wake up to play new songs, and it's great to see the reaction also, and see what the crowd thinks about it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering, is how have the reactions been kind of since you guys have been like playing shows again, and not only that, playing new material? People have been like really receptive to it, excited. Like, what's the general mood of people that you see?
Yeah, I mean, they seem very excited, and I don't know. We were doing a couple of festivals last weekend, and it was a Desert Fest in Berlin and Desert Fest in London, and we it seems like people didn't forget us after all. Nowadays you got to be kind of, you got to show yourself every day online or on the internet, but yeah, I'm happy that people didn't forget about us.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years, that's a fair amount of time to take off. I think there's a lot of bands that don't even put out records in that amount of time. If you look at Dimmu Borgir, it took them like 10 years to put out an album, basically.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
3 years,
yeah,
I think that's
not
acceptable.
too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that's it feels really good to be back, to be honest. It feels like we weren't quite done, doing what we want to do. So yeah.
So I know you mentioned you love playing that Gibson SG on the recording. Is there any other piece of gear that you own that you like really love playing that's one of your favorites?
Yeah, I for some reason I always had that SG as one of the favorites, and then for a while I didn't take care of it good enough, I guess, and it was in a little bad shape for a while. So I played a lot on my I had a Les Paul 58 ratio that I used a lot. But I realized in the studio when we did this last record that sorry, the Les Paul didn't have a chance, kind of, in the sound for me, or for what I like. So I actually traded the Les Paul for an exact or not exact but almost exact SG Special, as I have as my favorite guitar. And it's just 1 year later. It's in 1971. This new one I traded the Les Paul for, and it has the same pickups, kind of stock from the 60s, and then the guitar is made in 1971. And the one that I always used is from 1970. So it's the neck profile is slightly different, but it's they're very similar, and yeah, I like the round neck. So yeah, I was happy to find that other one. So now I got two of my favorites. So and then I also have one more SG Special.
Nice.
But it's a new one, and I've been trying to listen, or sometimes you get these. You focus too much on the sound that comes out, that you start to look for things that maybe not even I don't know, it's possible to get, but you still look for the perfect sound all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've found the guitars that fits me best, at least, and so that's definitely my favorite equipment. It's the SGs.
Yeah, that's an important thing, man. And finding that guitar that just feels like it's an extension of your arm, man.
It's
a nice
like it
feeling.
fits together. Friends from start. It's great.
So, kind of closing out here before we finish up, is there any last kind of like story or anecdote about the recording of the album, or maybe a piece of trivia that you would like to tell people about, or was it pretty straightforward?
Wow. I don't have really anything about this recording, but other than we had a lot of fun. I think the most maybe one of the favorite recordings, and because of how the dynamics worked out, and also Chips and Stefan, it was great. And yeah, sorry, no fun stories really, except totally a good mood within the time we recorded. So
now, is there something behind the name of the album, Peace, or is it just kind of what fit for the record?
Yeah, it's what fit the record, I think, and there's really not a story behind it, but it's Truls came up with it, and the more we thought about it, the more we liked it. And I guess nowadays it's always a good word, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I love the album cover too. It's a really, man, that art is excellent on there, and just the way it flows with the logo, it's really nice looking.
Yeah, thanks. It's Ulf Lundén, our old friend, that made the cover for the last Innocence and Decadence, and also Hissing and Blues, and he did that all on his own once again, like he's done the other ones. And every time we ask him, we know that he's going to come up with something that's really good. So we're happy and fortunate to be working with that guy as well.
Awesome. So the record comes out May 25th on Nuclear Blast, correct?
Yeah, Nuclear Blast. Yeah, that's correct. I think pretty much everywhere, yeah, except Scandinavia.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys have been working with that label for years now. Has it been a pretty good relationship on there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've been treating us very, very well, and they have always given us freedom to do whatever we want to do. So yeah, they've been amazing, definitely.
They seem like a good label. Yeah, they seem to push their bands, and the band that I used to tour with is on that label now too. So, and they've gotten a huge push since they got on that label, and it's been really good for them. So I support that label 100%. Was it? Carnifex.
Carnifex. Okay, yeah, I've seen the name, I think.
Yeah, they're more of a death metal band, so way into the spectrum there. Awesome, man. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I've already heard the album, but I hope everybody else checks out the album. It's fucking amazing, and hopefully if you guys tour the States soon, I'll come out to a show and see you guys.
All right, yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it's thanks for having me, and yeah, we'll be there pretty soon, I hope. Maybe not this fall, but very soon after.
Awesome, man.
To do tour.
Be excellent to each other.
Yeah,